Good morning, everyone. Imagine why it's just Vet Arash and I have few Master Scoil in the one Tame. It's good to be back in Galway at the EPA annual water conference. My name is Feargal Ó'Coigligh, Assistant Secretary in the Water Division in the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage. As we know, Ireland has made substantial progress in how we manage water services and oversee water quality in recent years. However, Ireland's waters are now subject to mounting environmental pressures. After years of steady improvement, overall water quality in Ireland is again in decline. This is primarily due to nutrient pollution. The EPA has set this out in stark terms in the most recent report on the status of Ireland's environment. The situation is urgent and requires collective action to halt and reverse the deterioration. These environmental pressures are putting Ireland's clean and green image at risk, as well as the livelihoods that depend directly on that image. We can meet the challenge of protecting and improving our water quality. However, this will be a difficult task. We cannot take a business as usual approach. It must be a sincere collective effort, as the causes and the answers are not within the grasp of a few individual groups. However, everyone needs healthy and well-protected water catchments. This should drive a sense of collective collaboration and coordination to the benefit of all. The programme for government commits Ireland to producing a new, stronger river basin management plan in 2022. Today, shortly ahead of the publication of a draft text of the new plan for 6 months consultation, I will set out the key measures that we expect to propose in the new plan. These measures will be based on the 3 principles that emerge from our review of the second cycle. Firstly, an increased level of ambition. The third cycle plan will need a high level of ambition in response to water quality trends. Secondly, integrated catchment planning. Local catchment management plans will be put in place early in the next cycle for each of the 46 catchments. This will provide opportunities for greater public participation and engagement of key stakeholders and sectors at a local and regional level. Thirdly, the attainment of multiple benefits. Many of the measures needed to protect and improve water quality can also deliver benefits for biodiversity and climate change. The plan will also commit to swift progress on 3 fronts. 1, completing the work of legal and institutional transformation by modernising and consolidating our legal framework and further enhancing governance arrangements. We must continue to support the evolution of Irish water on its journey to become a world-class utility, and also ensure that rural water services are not left behind. And we must structure and resource our local authorities, including LawPro, to fully take up the mantle as the local curators of water quality measures. Continuing the investment in urban rural water services to address deficiencies and to support housing and regionally balanced economic development. And thirdly, protecting our rivers, estuaries, lakes and groundwater by working across government to address the root causes of water quality issues, including dealing with wastewater discharges, reducing diffuse pollution, and returning rivers to free-flowing watercourses. In relation to the first area of institutional legal reform, there will need to be a further increase in the level of coordination and collaboration by all implementing bodies at national, regional, and catchment levels, building on the work started in the second cycle. We have several formal reviews underway or completed, including a comprehensive review of LawPro by Dr. Matt Crowe, the IPA's research on water governance that you will hear about later in the conference, and a review of the ASAP advisory services. All of this will inform and further improve governance arrangements in the next cycle. We will continue to support the work of the community water officers at LawPro and the work of Inform Michigan. Both of these are key to ensure the participation of the public, water users and other stakeholders in informing the management of our waters. Local government has a key leadership role in the stewardship of water catchments. We will work to support the respective roles of the Local Authority of Waters programme and each individual local authority in fulfilling their role in water quality protection and restoration. We are working with the CCMA on a business case for the local authority sector on water protection. We have also already started to work on an enhanced water environmental legislative code, beginning this year with abstractions and associated impoundments. Our second area of focus is to continue the provision of high levels of investment in rural and urban water and wastewater services. A robust and well-established policy and funding architecture is now in place for public water services. Irish Water is continuing to invest heavily to address water challenges, with some positive trends now reported by the EPA. For example, the number of large urban areas not fully meeting treatment standards continues to decrease, falling from 28 to 19. And the total number of urban areas where the EPA requires Irish Water to improve treatment to resolve the priority issues is now 113, down from 148 in 2017, with further improvements expected. However, there is considerable ground to make up to address the compliance gap while accommodating population growth, changing settlement patterns, and adapting to a changing climate, a mixture of a greater frequency of heavy downpours on the one hand, coupled with extended dry periods on the other. The clear policy and financial framework governing water services is supported by the National Development Plan forecast spend of almost 8.5 billion in public water services by Irish Water over the 10 years 2018 to 2027. This plan will be updated later this year to cover the period 2021 to 2030. We will need to continue to invest in infrastructure at the most effective and efficient rate that Irish Water can maintain into the medium term. In relation to rural water, nearly 30% of households are not connected to public wastewater services and depend on either a septic tank, group wastewater treatment, or other system for treating their wastewater. The Rural Water Programme funds improvements to private domestic water and wastewater services. There is demand now to provide additional support for smaller settlements. Irish Water has established the Small Towns and Villages Growth Programme, which is intended to provide water and wastewater growth capacity in smaller settlements. This will provide 97.5 million in investment in the coming period. The department is also considering developing a new programme to invest in rural water systems and infrastructure in towns and villages where no Irish water systems are in place. The third area of focus, and perhaps the most important of all, is the need to further enhance and strengthen the core measures that protect and restore our water catchments. The third cycle plan will bring a visible and strengthened response based on the principle of the right measure in the right place. To paraphrase the EPA's State of the Environment Report 2020, many plans and programmes are already in place which, if fully implemented, would go a long way towards resolving persistent environmental issues. Full implementation of and compliance with legislation is a must to protect the environment. The current River Basin Management Plan is in place since 2018, and many of the measures in that plan will continue into the next plan cycle to 2027. The new River Basin Management Plan will include an increased ambition, and subject to finalisation will include continued and increased investment in Irish water and in rural water services under the revised NDP, an increase in catchment-based investigation and collaborative water quality actions led by LawPro and supported by a strengthened water quality response in each local authority area. Continued support for farmers to embrace sustainable measures through the CAP strategic plan, including an expansion of the ASAP Farm Advisory Service. The agri-food industry itself has an important role to play to contribute to measures to protect its image and to protect water quality by their suppliers. A next iteration of the Nitrates Action Programme with clearer rules and more visible and effective enforcement with dissuasive penalties with an enhanced local authority assessment regime. Better and clearer integration of water protection objectives into land use planning and into consent procedures for individual projects. New rules to regulate certain engineering activities which may pose a risk to the physical condition of those waters, for example, drainage works. A national programme to remediate hydromorphological impacts, starting with Panacotti Weir and the Lower Shannon Fish Pass projects. Continued and improved involvement of regional and national stakeholders in the planning and decision-making process, including in particular on Four Mishka. Continued and enhanced work to protect high status objective water bodies through the Blue Dots programme by local authorities and the new supporting EU Waters of Life project. And finally, revised and consolidated legislation on the water environment to ensure full compliance with the Water Framework Directive and associate directives. Just to conclude, a few words in relation to agriculture. We are in the department working very closely with the Department of Agriculture, which now has access to enhanced data from the EPA and from Teagasc on the critical source area maps and the impacts of agriculture on the environment. This puts both departments in a strong position to successfully direct measures through the next Nitrates Action Programme and the draft CAP strategic plan for Ireland. This will help in the design of measures to halt and reverse prevailing trends. For nitrogen, the EPA and Teagasc are using the new source data to predict and model the nitrogen concentrations in water required to achieve the required objectives. While the review of the Nitrates Action Programme is underway, it is strongly anticipated that enhanced enforcement of existing rules and a reduction of nitrogen fertilizer input is likely to be required if nitrogen reductions in vulnerable areas are to be reduced. For preventing phosphorus and sediment losses to waters, a preliminary gap analysis estimates that there is a need to put in place 2,500 kilometres of riverside water interception measures. This is about 3% of river length in Ireland and about 12,500 hectares of buffer zones with vegetation, vegetated channels, wetland ponds, or native woodlands. This demonstrates the benefits of a cost-effective targeted approach based on scientific evidence of risk. In each case, there is also a need to ensure that rules are understandable, are clearly communicated, and can be implemented by farmers with time to adjust to any new measures. So just to conclude, on the publication of the draft plan in the coming weeks, the department will again engage closely with all stakeholders over the coming months and throughout the consultation period. I very much look forward to that process. The discussion today and tomorrow here at the EPA Water Conference will also help inform the final River Basin Management Plan. When we meet Lekela, Sashomer, Tasuligum in person next year, I hope it will be clear that we have put in train new and enhanced measures to protect and restore Ireland's water quality. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.